Oh, what's good, everybody? Joey J. Ping here, checking in live, respectmyregion.com. We're here today on the third official episode of the Cannabis Testing Podcast, brought to you guys by InfiniteCAL and Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs, the go-to source for potency testing, terpene testing, heavy metals, and a variety of other testing services that are usually and or typically required by the state that you operate in for cannabis. So be sure to reach out to InfiniteCAL. You can Google them, InfiniteCAL. It comes up on Google right away. We've got three very special guests. We've got my co-host down below, Josh Swider. He is the chief big boss dog himself, scientist, testing, you name it. Ask him the questions. He's very vocal about things that we're going to be talking about today all across the country. He's very passionate, and he cares about helping people. This is my resource, and I trust him because I was instructed by the Beard Pros to trust him. He's a great resource. We've got two gentlemen here today, Nick Manvel, Redbud Roots. We've got David Bai of Trap House Company. I'm very excited to be chatting with them today. They are both members, and they're both leaders and members in this group called Michigan for Safe Cannabis Coalition up in Michigan, obviously. And today we're going to be talking about the synthesized THC, this recent audit that they did. We've got a PDF that we're going to share from their report. And so, fellas, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you. Happy Thursday. How we rocking? Nick, you first. How you rocking today?
Great. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation, and really just looking to get the word out there and bring safety to consumers. There's a lot of dirty oil out there.
Absolutely. I appreciate you joining us today and sharing the perspective. And then, David, how you living? How are things going for you on this beautiful Thursday?
Living well. The weather's breaking. Things are happening. Sales are ticking away, and we're enjoying the cannabis world.
Love that. I love that. And it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for us all here in cannabis. It's difficult. The struggles are real. People are doing whatever they can to just get a buck or to make a buck or to keep their doors open. Josh, where are you at today? Where are you at in the country? I feel like I recognize where you're at, but where are you at in the country?
I'm in a back room. I'm at home today. I just got back at 2 a.m. from MJ and Pack conference.
Did you wake up at 4 a.m. like usual? Did you stick to your
I got home at 2 from the airport, so I stayed until 4:30 to bed.
Oh my gosh! And you know what? It's so impressive, the discipline that you have, and I feel like it's interesting to hear for me to think about it. Like, I know you and the discipline that you have, and how this also translates into and transcends into other areas of your life, specifically cannabis testing, your passion for cannabis, and ultimately helping people. I want to dive in though first with you, David. Let's talk a little bit about what you do. You're the president of Trap House Company. Who are you? What do you guys do? And what is your role with Michigan for Safe Cannabis Coalition? 3-part question. Nick, be thinking about that too. I'm going to ask you something similar.
Great. Well, thank you. Listen, we appreciate your time today in addressing this issue, because it's one of the most important issues that faces cannabis in Michigan today and across the country. My name is David Bai. I am the president and I'm one of the founders of Trap House Company. I've been in cannabis since about 2009. I've been a consumer since about 13 or 14, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah. 13 or 14 years old, I guess. But I'm pretty sure for the first.
I want to say that year, David.
What's that?
You don't want to say that year? You don't want to say it yourself?
Oh my God. I think the first year, though, I smoked cannabis. I'm pretty sure it was mostly oregano from my supplier. But no, then in 2009, we started a chain of hydro stores. And in 19, we started Trap House Company.
Wow.
We are a brand here in Michigan, a quality brand with great quality products at a fair price. We're all legacy holders in the industry. And now we've joined MiSSCo in the last 6-8 months just because we're seeing so much pollution in the product. We're seeing companies that aren't being honest to the consumers. And we're seeing companies that are really just destroying a market that so many people worked hard to try to make healthy. And we spent so much time making this, getting the law to say that we have a legal product now, and now we're destroying it. We're destroying the quality, the integrity of not just the product, but the people involved in it.
Potentially destroying the industry, because if we give these legislators enough bad reasons to change things, they may not listen to us because of lack of trust and public safety issues. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a tough situation to be in. But we appreciate your efforts, and I heard you say this. This abbreviated term, MiSSCo, that's the abbreviation for the group that we're talking about. You guys, the Michigan for Safe Coalition.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
And basically, we summarize it as Michigan for Safe Cannabis is what's traditionally been. MiSSCo. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's interesting. and I appreciate the fact that you guys do this, because I feel like where I'm from in Washington, I'm sure it exists, but it's not like they're hopping on my podcast or itching to jump on it, because we want to be sharing this kind of stories. So I appreciate you for your time, David. Thank you for sharing that info. Nick, what's going on with you, man? What's your role there at Red Bud Roots? Who are you? What do you guys do? What's your role there with MiSSCo?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So Redbud Roots is one of the larger processors in the state. Our primary focus on the processing side is ethanol extraction. I've been with the group for 5 years, and I battle things every single year, and I put things in place to mitigate those things. And in years past, it's always been outside leaders, contending our price points and everything. But then this year it was the conversion, and it left me in a point looking at supply, demand, basic cues, saying this doesn't make sense, this doesn't math, how are people selling products for so cheap, and figured that everybody who's willing to play by the rules is probably in the same boat as we are. So started looking into it, found Josh over at InfiniteCAL, found out what they were doing, the method of detecting the converted oil, and really started to believe. And I remember saying to you, Josh, like is there a group out there? Is there a work group somewhere where we can get connected and start this stuff? And Josh, put together. I think he was having some similar conversations with a lot of different groups, and connected us all. So first initiative is converted oil. That's the big thing in the state right now. But really consumer safety is the the overarching focus. So we won't be done once we resolve this issue. That's for sure.
What is that? And Josh, we identify the issue, and we talk about resolving the problem, right? Creating a solution for that. Scientifically, can you give me what's the issue and what that means and looks like? And then also, what does the solution look like? Is it just weeding out the bad actors? Is it cutting licenses? You know compliance and legislation and all those kind of things much better than I. So if you could elaborate on both sides of that coin, that'd be great.
So I mean, the big issue with synthetic Delta 9 is not so like. People think like synthetic equals bad. Synthetic doesn't always equal bad. You got to be very specific about that. Synthetic producing of any chemicals for human consumption can be done right. So the problems with synthetic production, normally it's an FDA regulated item. I mean, this is like how big pharma makes drugs. This is the same type of thing. People hate, people don't like big pharma. People do. People have, in the industry. But this is why we set out a course for the FDA to regulate the production of synthetic chemicals for human consumption, for a reason, because of the adverse effects that have happened in the past. And that's how the FDA came about. I mean, we got to make sure the consumers and the public is safe. And that's what the organization FDA would always do. So these products are being produced. And normally, when you're doing a production of synthetic chemicals, you have some inherent issues. One is going to be byproducts made. Byproducts are unintended consequences. So think about in the regular chemical reaction, it's not just 1 + 2 = 3. That's not how it goes. 1 + 2 = 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3F, and you can't ever control them. So you end up getting these byproducts. And some of these byproducts that have been identified have never been produced on a cannabis plant. They're just a chemical that looks like another chemical. So that's where you get other problems. Very similar chemicals, even enantiomers, like superimposable images like your hands. One of them can kill you, and one of them can cure your cancer. Very little amounts of this will kill you. This will cure your cancer. So very specific things. Enantiomers and stereochemistry is very important. But this is why we leave things to chemists, to safety public, so the FDA. This is why we do this type of thing, because the general public, we don't understand these things. And it's not a bad thing. And if people want to learn more, definitely, I always say learn more. So that's the first thing, byproducts being made. Another thing, residual chemicals they use for production. So for production chemicals, always with FDA processes, you must screen all production chemicals in your final product. The thing is, they're not doing that. And the production chemicals can be extremely hazardous for human consumption and dangerous. So there's one that's in this study that's been uncovered that's used primarily in the acid catalyzed reaction, PTSA, that's para-toluene sulfonic acid. Long thing, just think about like a sulfuric acid derivative. You don't want to inhale sulfuric or sulfonic acid. I promise you, it's not good for your lungs. It'll eat away at your lungs over time. And that's one of those things. Like, we don't want to think, cannabis destroys your lungs after 5 years or 10 years. But PTSA in small amounts after 5 or 10 years could. So this is where you get the negative correlations, and people get a negative stereotype or negative, decision made about cannabis. And this is what threatens the whole industry. And
this oil, this creation of this type of oil, these byproducts, these this other word, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know that my mouth can form it.
PTSA. Enantiomers.
Enantiomers. Okay, so was able to
Oh,
formulate that one. So, like, the science of this again is like it's like there's these crumbs. You use the sandwich or the number that you're making a sandwich. You're creating this thing. You leave something behind. You got to do something with that, and that can't be in the final product. So what's interesting to me is, why are the regulators struggling to identify this? If you guys as the brands and the labs, and you told me in the past, Josh, when we've spoken about the pesticides and things like that, like, we can raise the concerns and flag all this as much as we want, but why are the regulators struggling to manage this problem if it's so big already?
It's taking time. That's one thing, like why MiSCCo was even created, and why you're seeing other organizations like ECHO in California that to hold a higher standard or a higher bar to analytical or to safety testing in cannabis to secure public safety or ensure public safety as much as they can during the time, as this industry is a new infant industry. No one thought the extraction of cannabis was going to turn into the synthesis of cannabis. Those are two different regulatory things. That's a totally different framework. When people wrote regulations to enforce on cannabis or the safety of cannabis consumption, they didn't say, hey, we're going to synthesize the cannabis. No one ever thought we were synthesizing the molecules. So they didn't write the appropriate regulations to hold that accountable. They did regulations that you can't import stuff, import into the metric systems or the legal system, which people are doing, but they're finding their way around that. And this is one of those things. It's like, what do you do to the regulators can do? So like the state of Michigan on their new proposed rule set, that the first public comment would be May 6th. And I strongly, if there's consumers out there that are from Michigan, support these things. These are open public forums. Come and talk about this to them. There's a rule in there that directly bans conversion oil from the system because it wasn't in there before. And then that's where they can get the traction on enforcing on this stuff. And then that's where, like, a lot of times these regulatory bodies, they have these laws written, and the laws didn't cover absolutely everything, because they couldn't think of it at the time. I don't blame the regulatory bodies. I don't blame anyone on it. The question is, how do we work together as a whole industry that really care to push this stuff forward for the consumer safety and the public safety? And that's what we all need to do as an industry. And then this organization, MiSSCo, kind of came about, was concerned people in the industry, out of the industry, people that aren't even stakeholders in the industry are involved. And it's just looking at this as a consumer consumer safety coalition. And that's why we're doing it in this way.
Now, this next question for David here. David, what kind of impact does this have on your business? I mean, you're the president. It means you're either wearing all the hats, you're the founder, all the co-founder, all these different things. You're touching the business at so many different points. What types of impact does this have from a business standpoint? How does it affect your business, your taxes, the revenue streams, the ability to pay employees, all that kind of stuff? What are the trickle-down effects and the ramifications of this problem?
I mean, they're immense, Joey. If you look, we already walked into this industry with, almost a crippling 280E tax law that takes us right down to the bare bones and really cuts into your bottom line. But as a company selling products, now we're not only just trying to promote our products, but help the consumer understand our products are safe. And it's devastating to just sales alone, because when you saturate the market with a legal product that's much cheaper, when you're playing by the rules and trying to stay above board and do the right thing for your consumers, your employees, it puts a crippling effect on you. And so I'm finding the many leaders of companies and owners that we talk to on a regular basis are all saying the same things. And these are people who are doing legitimate business. And so it puts a hurt on us. We want to look forward and find a way to heal that. And the more people we get to join MiSSCo, the more people and companies that we can do the right thing and have an honest product, the quicker it'll help our consumer stay healthy, and it'll help the industry heal. So
I love that. There's clearly a passion for the plant, the community, the people and the consumers. I think that's a vital component into that, because the consumers don't have as large of a voice in these kinds of things as they should. The participation simply isn't there yet. I think that's a big problem.
Well, Joey, I just want to add the consumer, and they have the voice. We got to make them realize they have the voice, because their voice comes through us in going to their dispensary and talking to the bud tender and say, hey, does this have the MiSSCo sticker on it? Is this certified that it's not conversion oil?
If they demand safe, clean product, people will adapt slowly and surely.
Absolutely.
Now, Nick, you are procurement bulk sales. He was talking about, David down there was talking about how that impacts bottom line and how that dishonesty can help the market fluctuate a little bit. What is the impact and the ramifications of these kinds of products in your side of the business when it comes to you selling product and also procuring, which is trying to find stuff for your own items, right? So what is that world like for you? What are some of the problems that have arisen since this became a larger problem at scale?
Yeah, I mean, the cheap converted oil, is driving the price down, and that's putting farmers in an unsustainable spot. From a very simple perspective, from the procurement side of things, farmers are starting to look at their projections and wondering if they should continue. A lot of grows are closing down, and on the sales side of things, it's a pretty unique industry. Is the way it started off being the opportunity to be fully vertically integrated. If you look at other established markets, industries, there really isn't a whole lot of that. A lot of auto industry people find their lane and focus on what their core competency is. So we've found our lane over here. We're a processor. We're a large output processor. We need to keep the output moving. I need to keep selling the liters. So when things come in from out of state or converted oil comes in, it makes it very challenging for me to move my product. It also puts the state of the market with prices being so cheap puts a lot of the producers in a really hard ethical point. Do I continue running my business by converted oil and pay and continue paying all these people that I've employed? Or do I just hang my hat up and walk away because this doesn't make sense here? So it's very challenging to say the least.
It sounds like is this a seasonal thing because it's agriculture? Are we seeing influx seasonally, or is this people taking last year's shit, turning it into whatever? Or I forget what they call it. Josh, what do they call it when they onboard something onto metric and it's not on metric or whatever? Like,
so inversion.
Yeah. So is it something like that where they're bringing it into the system in that regard? Like, what are these? Where does this byproduct come from? Right?
Oh, the byproduct, or just in general how they get it into the system, metric system,
let's bring clarity to both. Where does this material come from, and how the hell do they invert it into the system? Because that's where the problem also lies. Is okay, we got this excess material that's this or that. It's somehow getting all the computer stuff is happening and testing or whatever. It's like at some point, where's the checkpoint accountability from the groups, right?
So I think that's the problem. Is like the metric system's not always the greatest at it if it's not being used appropriately. So the metric system is great if people are telling the truth, but when you're filling out tags, like if you create tags to grow plants and then you never grow the plants, and then you just say, hey, I harvested 50 pounds or 5,000 pounds this week, and you never harvest a plant, you just burn that metric tag, and then you took those 5,000 plants and you did an extraction. That you don't even have any instrument plugged in to do an extraction. Oh look, I took those 50,000 pounds and I made 5,000 liters. Oh, that's where it came from. And now they take the liters they just purchased, because you can buy these from companies around the United States. There's some large states that are really big producers of this. It takes crystalline CBD that's only synthetically produced in China, shipped over in 55-gallon drums, and then do the acid catalyzed reaction, and they sell it and they ship it out on pallets. They ship it out in barrels around the country, and it's done to people importing it into the system. It's done in the hemp industry too, and then it's infiltrated its way tremendously into the legal cannabis industry, and it's not legal cannabis, to tell the truth, and that's where you get these problems.
So you guys were talking about this MiSSCo stamp. Tell me more about the program, the solution for all this. What is the vision for helping get this closer and closer to some version of a finish line where the problem is solved?
So I'll start on that, and the other guys take it off too. But the MiSSCo organization kind of set out to start with this problem with the synthetic THC. So what MiSSCo did is trademark a sticker. It says free. I can zoom in on something and share a screen. Over there, and this is just on a report that we'll discuss here in a little bit. Can you see that screen? So in that bottom corner down here, it says free of synthetic marijuana extracted. That little sticker is on a lot of the MiSSCo members' products, on all their products. So if you go to a store and you look at one of the vape carts or the cartridges they have, it'll have a little MiSSCo sticker on it, or it's actually printed on the box. And what that MiSSCo sticker really represents is this product has undergo testing for conversion oil to prove, even though these operators don't do it, they still do the additional testing to show that you don't have these contaminants, that you're not using this conversion oil, and they hold themselves to a higher bar than the state regulators are currently doing it. And then it shows you that they are involved in audits. And that's what we'll get to next too. And I'll kind of go back to see if the other guys have any comments.
Wow. Okay.
Sure. And then the MiSSCo members are all submitting themselves to audits publicly. And then if they ever came up with failed problems and samples, they would have to remediate it or be removed from MiSSCo.
Before we switch, help people understand what you just said. Remediate? What does that mean?
Remediate the problem.
The grand scheme of all this.
So if a member ended up getting a product failed on a shelf during an audit, or they would have to remove it from the shelf. If they refuse to remove it from the shelf and then putting a press release out, they would be removed from the MiSSCo organization.
Okay. Wow. So there's.
So it's like almost like how the regulatory body would do something, like you have a chance to remediate the problem, and then we would work on them with fixing it. But all this stuff it's being done to hold a higher bar. So it's not like competing with the regulators. It's the same thing. It's like how much money do people spend on organic fruit? To USDA certified organic, right? This is now just another way to a consumer group that's certifying something a little bit higher quality, promoting that it's going to have a higher quality than another or safer product, higher quality than the regular system, which would be just in Michigan, a legal market right now.
David, what are some of the additional layers of we'll call it consumer focused safety that you guys, are integrating into all of this MiSSCo activity?
Let me give a shameless plug here. This is what we're looking for.
Cool. Yeah, perfect.
So I have no shame. No, but we're trying to incorporate a lot of things into safety. Obviously, the contents of the product are the most important, because what the customer and the end user consumes, that's it. That's ideally. We're doing a lot of other things. Like for Chap House Company, we have about 85% of all of our packaging now is biodegradable. That's an area that I feel is, we sell hundreds of thousands of pre-rolls a year, and we're just one, small, mid-sized company. And so we're really trying to push that. Obviously, MCT oil is something that MiSSCo and Josh and others have done great, made great grounds as far as getting that taken out of the system. So, like we were saying, Nick was saying earlier, MiSSCo is for, cannabis safety, for consumer safety. And so as these problems come up, we as a coalition and an organization and a group of companies who live in this environment, in this space, are focused on making sure that we attack those negatives. The one thing I always like to tell people is the good players in this game, in this industry, the people who are trying to deliver quality products, they're the ones that are going to fall off because, they're not on a level playing field and they're doing the right thing. And that's not the rewarding thing in this case. The people you're going to be left with are these bad players who don't care about the consumer, these bad players who don't care about the industry. They're just concerned about their bottom line, and that's it. Now, and everyone's concerned about their bottom line a bit, but we also have concerns about the well-being of humans. And so we're really pushing to make sure those good players are the ones who live in a healthy environment.
And then
Nick, similar question to you on that as well. What are some of the things that you guys are adapting to there or integrating via Redbud Roots? And also, what are some of the things that you're passionate about in this overall MiSSCo activity too?
Yeah, I think that the really eye-opening thing for me before the sticker was developed was that we were all shouting at the rooftops. We went to the CRA directly through the proper channels to the head. We went to the governor directly. We went to the AG. I called the human health department. Nobody really did anything. Everybody said that they were concerned. They took the information, and so that's when we realized we really need to take a focus on getting the information to the consumer, because it's essentially a large scale human health trial that's going on here, and nobody knows what's going to come out the other end. And so the main focus for us over at Redbud is just bringing awareness to the bud tenders, because they're the ones delivering the the information to the consumers. So we have informational flyers that go out with every order. We're encouraging provisioning centers to schedule times with us to answer questions and basically just educate is the real thing. I think if you were told that your favorite product that you've been smoking could have synthetic weed in it and that it wasn't actually weed this entire time, you might be a little bit upset. So I think that's what we're trying to, message that we're trying to drive, so that people look into this stuff, do some research for themselves, and hopefully, choose the right products that are safe for them.
I worked for a brand that when I worked for them, they were multi-state, and their Washington group was caught in the scandal as part of a list of groups that had purchased converted hemp oil and for their vapes. And of course, they didn't know it was this, it was that. The point of being is that if the math doesn't make sense, they say in business, right, Josh, if it's too good to be true, right, it probably is, right? And in your case, if the science isn't sciencing, then the math's not going to math, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing we always try to tell, like other organizations or anyone who's involved in the industry, is it, like, I try not to say good, bad, and stuff like that. Maybe people don't know, and like the thing is, the information's out there. So now it's your job as a company to ensure you're not doing something, or to make sure you know what's going on too. Because that's what it is. To say I don't know or I didn't know, it's like, yeah.
There's going to be green flags. There's going to be red flags, right, Josh? Like, there's clear identifiers when the situation's going to be too good to be true, right?
Yeah. And that's what things like this organization does, is holds a higher bar to testing. So like, or to this consumer safety, not testing, excuse me. There's a lot of testing standards we implement into it. And yeah, this is one of the first things we worked on, like MCT oils in there. There's other things. There's dilutants coming out, and like we have a list of common dilutants that are seen, and then this will come into the MiSSCo situation, or the MiSSCo organization, because this is just one of the things. Like, any member can start proposing these things through the organization, and then we can implement them into the organization very quickly. And then all the players, all the actors members in the industry will have to adapt. I mean, so if we all agree as a coalition, like, hey, we're going to start screening for these potential hazards, all of the members are going to have to make a change potentially, or ensure they don't have it as well too. Which I'm not saying they would, but that's what all of us are doing as a group, or we're holding ourselves to a higher bar than the rest of
and you guys are also too, you're putting in the work to uplift, and I would say elevate, right? The rising tide lifts all boats, right? All ships. And also too, David, I just want to say that was hilarious. Whoever was doing the cameo, we all were trying. I was dying. Whoever that was, big shout out to them for adding a little bit of
figure out what's going on.
And you too for trying to block it out. That made it even better.
Let me tell you, that's a C-level person right there in a large company. That's not ours, but
good. I appreciate them for joining. Make sure you shout them out for us today. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back to the red flag, green flag stuff, because for me, I had a brand for 2 years. We have our brand. We sold products and did a little CPG thing for 2 years, right? And I had to do all the procurement. And so this concept of too good to be true, I want to go touch on you, Nick, for this one. What are those red flags when you're going and shopping leaders or buying looking for things, or what are some of those things that maybe someone who's not as experienced as you, what should they be looking for? So that way we avoid the excuses of I didn't know, because I hate that stuff, because they should have checked it, right? And then they got to get it tested, right? If they looked at the COA, they'll probably be able to identify certain things. Is that true, Josh? Yeah. To add a layer to that,
there's some little cues there. There's some ways around it. There isn't a definitive when you're looking at a COA. I think that there are still some red flags. You can make a few phone calls and figure out where the market is. If you're buying something significantly below market value, something's wrong with that.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that in one case. Big red flag.
Nick, there's one more thing too. Is it having people got pretty damn brazen? We had a conversation where people contacted you and they're straight, hey, Nick, do you want to buy conversion oil? It's this price. It's half the price of the regular market. People have gotten that brazen now to say you don't know about it. All of us have been offered it. I've been offered it. I mean, every one of us, we've been offered it bluntly. So like to say like, I didn't know that was going on. It's like, yeah, if you're a part of the industry, you know what's going on.
That's crazy. Yeah. And is that something we're only seeing in Michigan? I mean, obviously this is a group that's very passionate, but this is somewhere we're seeing this all over the place because they're realizing it can be done.
Yeah, it's all over the United States. I mean, I've worked across the United States on this kind of stuff. I do a lot of things national. Personally, at ICAL, not as a MiSSCo organization. But yeah, this is happening in other states. It's happening around the country, and it'll accelerate unless something starts to happen. And I'll give it up to the CRA and the Michigan for being the first state to actively work on banning this out of their system. I mean, it's taken a long time. I know people might say other things, but if anything, they're moving the ball forward. They're moving the goalpost forward for this stuff.
So there's obviously there's consumer safety. Seems to me that there's also this business safety element that MiSSCo really stands for and represents, because hearing David talk about it and understanding Nick's role from the procurement and sales standpoint, it seems to be that when there's this influx of product and people feel compelled to do it just to survive, just to keep their business going or to get that edge, right? That it seems to me that there seems to be like this a pretty high level of business risk with cannabis or not at this point, right? Because if the Davids and the Nicks go down and they move less units, well, then the packaging is impacted and other supply chain elements are impacted. And so this seems to be kind of a volatile situation. What gets us closer to the solution, guys? What is paint that picture? How do we actually cross the finish line? Is there a finish line?
So I think it's a good time too. We can go. And David, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to say, what gets us closer to the solution is the state Congress here in Michigan and across the country, the individual people that have that power to give the regulatory agencies the teeth to be able to revoke licenses, the teeth to be able to confiscate product. Right now, that structure isn't there. Like Josh brought up Brian Hanna, who Brian Hanna has stood up, and he really has been moving in the right direction, speaking with Congress, and getting our Congress here in Michigan to enact laws and to change the regulations so that we can really police our own industry and the CRA can do the policing for us. That's going to be a big step in the right direction. And I think with that, you're going to see a snowball effect of these bad players realizing that the gig is up, I think is the old phrase, where, they just can't do it anymore without some serious punishment.
They should not have access to the dispensaries and the same ecosystem that's been created to give them that unfair advantage. The trap market, the legacy shit's always going to exist, right? Fine, go do that and go do whatever. But they cannot have access to this group of people, whether it's recreational consumers or patients or I'm a both. They cannot have access to us. We don't want them to have access to us. I don't work in the industry with a license. I don't want to be able to buy converted oil with these byproducts and these other things that have not been double, triple, quadruple checked. Like, that's just the case.
And Joey, we respect the trappers. How we all were trappers at one point back in the day. Now, but the thing is, even the traditional market is going to get a bad rep, just because. Where do you think they're going to start dumping all this stuff? They're not going to put it in the legal market because we're putting those barriers up. So now you have to worry about, the traditional market that isn't regulated. And so we just need these players to go away or at least stand up and do the right thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nick, did you?
So, I'll add to that too. Like you were asking about, yeah. So what states, there's lawsuits in Colorado about this very thing right now. I know against the state regulators. There was one filed a couple weeks ago. I read some articles about it, and then there's been some other states like the similar things are going on. And I just wanted to kind of bring up like what can you do, or kind of what MiSSCo's done. Kind of, I don't know if this is the next thing you have, but I wanted to go back over that report we talked about and shared. So
yeah, of course. I'll bring it back up for us. Here we go.
Yeah, MiSSCo published its first audit of the sample. So MiSSCo members all allow themselves to be a part of the audit. So this audit is conducted by doing random sampling off shelves and acquiring samples being sold at legal provisioning centers in the state of Michigan. This first report here, it's a research report that was put out by MiSSCo, and it's just the first audit. So this is a monthly audit that we're going to be doing on different product types. So this one focused on synthetic THC, or just a specific thing, in the legal market in Michigan for distillate vape pens. So very specifically distillate vape pens. Overall, the audit, the MiSSCo, it's just a generalization. You can find this on MiSSCo.org, and you can get a link to the audit. This doesn't. Also the coalition, we've taken the response that this isn't like us trying to point out bad actors. And some people might have a problem with that. Like consumers, like, you should tell us who's doing things wrong. The thing is, we're trying to let people have the chance to do things right. And then as MiSSCo, we do report everything we do find to the regulators, because that's the only thing we can do. It would be immoral for us to not do that, so that they can have a chance at correcting a problem that's happening in the industry. And we get a lot of heat for that. I personally get a lot of heat for that. A lot of things get said about me, but I really don't care if I'm doing things right. Bad things are always going to be said. If you're doing something right for society, something's going to be done. But I mean, on this audit, you can kind of see the current MiSSCo members. It's not just us. It's not just 4 of us. There's some big players in the state of Michigan involved in this, and people that are really out there to do the right thing. On the audit, pretty much what we did is we purchased the samples from the shelf. Everything was done with COCs, using chain of custodies, put in tamper-evident bags for any residuals, and then we acquired 10 grams of each pen. 5 grams were used for the testing, and 5 grams were sealed up in tamper-evident proof seals and 24-hour surveillance. So it's in case anyone wants to check the MiSSCo. If there's ever an issue or anything coming up in the future, we have all the for these.
To interject and ask here, Josh, 22 of Michigan's top 30 brands were selected, 2 SKUs, so that just means 2 different units, items
at least 2
were picked, and then you had to buy 10 grams worth of that item.
MiSSCo
If that's a 1 gram vape, 10 grams, 10 vapes. If that's a half gram vape, which I don't know if anybody still
it went 1 gram, and there's some 2 grams that were involved in it.
Yeah, 2 grammers exist now in Michigan at a high level now. Those are popular.
So 45 different SKUs. When I say SKUs, 45 different SKUs, all of them with 10 grams each.
Wow.
Half of it was used for the testing.
This is extensive.
This is very extensive, and this is so the way the top brands were selected out of Headset. Headset provides data to everyone about who the top brands are. We took the top 30 list for distillate vape pens, and then we took the SOP for the people to acquire the samples that went out and acquired them, and they acquired it according to the SOP, random sampling, buying the products they could find the 10 of, and having after a production date. We did a production date of after October, because then MiSCCo was regulated in the products after October. So anything tested after October. So this is being done appropriately, and it's being done defensively. I mean, we always create defensive data, and this is the most appropriate way to do it. And it's not to point fingers at people. It's to make sure people are not going to point fingers at us saying you're doing something wrong or cherry picking things. This is no way cherry picking anything. So we had 5 MiSSCo member brands audited during this thing. We don't audit every one. We'll collectively audit the member brands as we go. And unbeknownst to them, they didn't supply the samples to us. They were purchased off the shelf, just like every other consumer can buy. So there's no leg up for the MiSSCo members. They better be producing the correct product, because if not,
okay. So David and them passed, and I see Nick and them passed. So that's squad. Let's go. MiSSCo they're doing it. Okay. So if the leaders got to do it.
Yeah, all people passed all things synthetic. So we did a full compliance test of the current regulations of the CRA, the state of Michigan. Everyone passed flying colors. Everyone passed with no contaminants of PTSA or synthetic. There's no MCToL in these things. This is passing. This is what you should expect, and this is why you should look for the sticker. This sticker tells you these made it, and this is the audit system. We got to make sure what we're saying is true. These people are vouched to be doing the correct thing. The only way you can hold yourself accountable is having an audit system. And this is what we developed within it. So then after that, we looked at the non-member brands. There's 35 SKUs from 17 different brands. Minimum is 2 SKUs per, and then there was one with 3, I believe. Out of that, 20% of the samples failed for current CRA regulated testing.
So that's 3.5, aka 4 brands.
17, so 20%. So it was 7 samples of the 35.
7 samples.
7 different samples of the 35 failed for the current regulations. So they should never be on the shelf in the first place. With 14% of them failing for MCToL, 11% containing higher delta 8 than allowed by the state. The state only allows 10%.
Does that mean converted or what?
1 sample failed for multiple pesticides at well above the regulatory action.
Wow.
Yep. So this was just found, and that's what we have. Out of that, the extended testing, so this is past the CRA's testing. This is what MiSSCo was doing, the extended testing to confirm things like you don't have conversion. Sadly, 54% of the non-member samples were converted. 54%. That's not a small number, 50.3. And out of that, 65% of the brands that were non-members had.
Holy shit.
Out of these 54%, 26.3 contain PTSA. That's that synthetic, or excuse me, that
dude, the shit that's going to deteriorate my lungs.
Yep. And then this is kind of what the facts were that came of it. People are coming at us like, why are you not producing the brands and stuff? The thing is, we're not trying to start fights, and we offer this to everyone. Everyone in the industry in the state of Michigan knows about MiSSCo. They know what we're doing. If they want to be involved, they know about these problems. They're more than well happy to get involved. And we're not trying to out people or anything like that. And I know we're going to get some slack for it, but this is kind of what we ended up doing. We created a press release for it. It's been picked up by a few media outlets. And I just say people can read it. We can always take people's comments, things like that. You can contact us. Nick Young is a media contact. He info at MiSSCo.org. If anyone has questions or about membership or even just questions from a consumer, what's going on, we have a nice website that's been built. This was worked on by non-members of the cannabis industry, and also just people that are concerned about health. So this is kind of what we came up with for the first audit. So every month we plan on doing an audit. This one focused on the cannabis vape pens made from distillate. Any
54%. 54% of 35 samples popped for converted Delta 9 oil.
Yep.
Wow. For those of you guys watching, that data is very concerning. Not just in Michigan, but to think about that problem being at scale in other markets as well, such as California. I'm from Seattle, in Oregon, in Oklahoma, and what it's like with these kinds of products in markets where it's untested as well. It's a scary thought to think about what's being put into our lungs and into our bodies across the country. But this is not to fearmonger. This is science, folks. This is why we have it here. You guys, if you've ever felt sicker following vaping, there's reasons to that kind of stuff. It's all based on the ingredients. If you're eating bad food and you're vaping products and there's just sugar in your life, it's going to be a rough situation for most people. It's a combination of just shit that's bad for you. And we're not here to tell anybody what to do, but we definitely want to implore the companies that are out there, join MiSSCo. I'm a patient. I'm a consumer, man. I got my medical card in my wallet. I want to be able to go to Michigan. I want to be able to buy flower, vapes that I can trust. And more importantly, I want to be able to buy stuff for my mom. So that way every month I'm able to give my mom the stuff that she likes, which is distillate vapes, ironically enough. So it's frustrating that if I were to go look at someone's shelves, there's a potential that 54% of the brands on that shelf are not going to be safe for me to consume potentially if they're not involved with MiSSCo. And so as a consumer, I implore other consumers to go in and request these kinds of products, ask for Trap House, ask for Redbud Roots, ask for other groups in the space that operate and participate in this, and just start being sure to have those conversations with your budtenders and with these dispensaries that you visit, these provisioning centers, and letting them know that you want a safer product, letting them know that you care about your health, because we got to change the culture from within. It's going to take these passionate individuals here on the show with us today, alongside consumers going in and changing the demand and the culture within that. And so it's been really wonderful to chat with you guys. Before we get you guys out of here, I want to shout out InfiniteCAL for having this and hosting this and putting this all together with me, RMR, and for encouraging this conversation, because Josh and I could do marketing and could do promo on something totally different. We could do, all kinds of stuff that makes him look like some scientist and expert, but to do something that's a group effort, that's collaborative, that's based on consumer safety, that's based on and also has these business elements, these core business irregularities, unfair advantages, all these different things. We've got to get change to happen. And so Michigan leadership, legislation, can you guys please do more to protect consumer safety so that way tourists like me that come from other states can come there and we can have access to safe cannabis? Can we please do something about that and start just enforcing it a little bit more? Whatever that looks like, can we just get a 10% increase or a 1% increase? We'll take anything more at this point. And just communication and a little bit more care in that regard. From somebody who's somewhere else, who regularly goes to Michigan for trade shows, it's important, man. I already got kidney stones and all this other internal IBS, chronic this. Like, it sucks, and it sucks for a lot worse for a lot of other people, guys. So I appreciate your passion. I'll let usually at this point of the episode, I love to give people the floor. Josh, you're my co-host in this. You're the partner in this whole series. What would you like to share, or maybe do you want to ask these guys a question and let them expand on something?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I would share. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I am involved in. My company has always been involved in is consumer safety first. We are the last lines of defense for the consumers. I mean, people are my clients that produce this oil, but my real clients, and I'll always echo this, are the consumers of cannabis. Anyone that wants to try it or has tried or is consuming it, my push is for the safest product out there, so we don't look back. And think this became cigarettes one day. And, doctors prescribed cigarettes to people, and a lot of bad things have happened because of that. And I know cannabis should not do that. I feel cannabis should not be that part of that. And if we lead down the same path of not checking for contaminants and potential health risks, this is where we end up. And I mean, I really, for the guys, I mean, I'll give them a little screen time, or if you guys have anything to say or share with the general public, go ahead. David, if you want to go.
No, first off, I want to say thank you for having us. Obviously, we're here for something that's very important across the board. The one thing I do want to say is, this model is something that we're very proud of in Michigan, and we feel like we're making ground. And if you know somebody that smokes distillate, please pass us along this podcast. Please pass along, MiSSCo's website, and just so we can help spread that word. And ideally, if you're from another state and you have people that are in this industry, this is not a Michigan problem. It's not isolated to us here in Michigan. Reach out to us here at MiSSCo. Even if you're from another state, we'd be more than happy to give you all of our information that we have so you can start something at MiSSCo in your own state to help your end consumers there as well.
Let's go. Because I am also, being in California, I am definitely for safer cannabis and a coalition of people that care greatly about that. And I think there would be as you said, there is that echo group there, right? And then I don't know about Washington and these other places that I used to live and that I travel a lot to, but it would be amazing to have that. That's incredible. Nick, what do you got for the people, man? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just follow up on a question you asked earlier of what can we do, what needs to be done, action needs to be taken, and we need to get this product off the shelves. The PTSA shouldn't even touch your skin, let alone be inhaled through a vape pen. It's extremely dangerous stuff, and these people who are doing the synthetic conversion really they don't know what they're doing.
They don't care about our lives.
No, no, they do not. So that's the message I want to leave with. Is just we can come at it from multiple angles, regulatory, ourselves, bud tenders, awareness, but we need to get that product off the shelves.
How does a provisioning center reach out and get a hold of you guys to identify who those brands are that popped and failed so they can start getting that unsafe shit off their shelves? Because I would be terrible if I got a hold of that list and had to DM all those companies and be like, yo, I heard this. What's your comment? Because that kind of stuff is frustrating for me. I can't even go there right now and look through it and potentially even buy from my mom's usual go-to brands potentially, right, Josh? I mean, I see you shaking your head. My mom's a consumer in Texas. She's used to what I buy on the West Coast, okay? I send her goodies for her every holiday, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so you're telling me I can't even go get my mom her next Christmas or birthday gift or whatever because, I can't trust the different brands potentially in all these different states because their process is not locked down or it's deceptive in the first place.
And in a lot of states, there are people doing the right thing and holding themselves to a higher bar, and that's why I tell consumers always look for who they are. I mean, you look for people that are involved in these organizations. Look for people that always have promoted the health first and not necessarily profits. Profits over ethics is not the way to do any type of business in any of this stuff. And we're really out there trying to do these things right and make sure that people can consume cannabis for a lifetime and not just for this short amount of time there. The last thing I would say, like for any consumer out there, really look for the sticker. If you're in Michigan, ask a bud tender, say, where are these synthetic stickers when you're buying your distillate? If these are not on the products, maybe you second guess buying the product. So I have it's right there. That's what the MiSSCo labeled stickers are on all the products of MiSSCo members that have done it, and we'll keep being out there pressing forward on holding higher standards to safety of cannabis products. So we never look back and didn't do everything we can to provide the safest products we could.
Fellas, I really appreciate you guys joining me here today. Episode 3 of the Cannabis Testing Podcast presented by InfiniteCAL. Another great episode for people that care greatly about cannabis, that care greatly about their health, about their life, and about where they're going in the future. I think it's important to realize that the PTSA shouldn't even touch your skin. Some of these byproducts, there's legal limits and amounts on these things. And that doesn't mean we should be inhaling them in frequent quantities. Distillate vapors, to stereotype a lot of us, I'm one too. I got 3 vapes right here, different companies. Yeah, man, I love it. All the flavors, and it's fun to send the ones I don't like to my mom because she likes everyone. But again, it's like this creates a trust issue for me because my fears are now confirmed. And so I implore all these cannabis companies, and I implore other consumers, please pay attention, please ask, please support the right companies, please do more, please care more about what you're consuming, because this industry is new. And people are already trying to take advantage of it in bad ways. And so, fellas, Nick, thank you. Appreciate you, David, and Josh, as always. Everybody be sure to like, follow, subscribe. You can talk shit about me, but you got to support what they're doing, because they care. They care more about you guys than you even realize it. This time, this energy, these are real business professionals running big companies, moving hundreds of thousands, if not billions of dollars worth of cannabis products. It's real businesses here, taxes, labor, dealing with humans and customers and people quitting and hiring and turnover. Cannabis is not easy, folks. And so they're here today sharing their passion for taking care of us, the cannabis consumer that lives in their local community. That could be your neighbor, could be your mom, could be my mom. So I really appreciate you guys for joining us. For those of you guys watching, we'll catch you next time.